Have you ever felt it? That deep, unsettling vibration in the air. A subtle yet pervasive frequency that whispers a lie into the very soul of modern man. The lie that commitment is a cage, that devotion is a fool's errand, that the sacred vow is nothing more than a trap. If this message has ever resonated with the hidden chambers of your heart, if you've ever looked at the world and felt a profound disconnect between the honor you wish to embody and the chaos you are told to accept, then you are not alone. You are not crazy. You have simply tuned into a truth that society desperately tries to suppress. This is not just another video. This is an awakening, a transmission of divine guidance for those who feel the weight of this silent war. What you are about to hear will either shatter your illusions or validate your deepest intuitions. It is a key to unlocking the spiritual armor you were born with. So I ask you to do more than just listen. I ask you to feel the truth in these words. And if they strike a chord within your spirit, if you find yourself saying, "I resonate with this," then let your voice be heard. Like this video to anchor the frequency, subscribe to continue your journey of awakening, and share your story in the comments below. Your testimony is a beacon for others who are navigating this same darkness. Let the world know that the sovereign man is rising, not in anger, but in profound, unshakable truth. Let us begin this sacred work together, for the path to true freedom starts now, with the first courageous step of understanding. A profound quote from the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche serves as the gateway to our understanding, a powerful key unlocking the very nature of our current spiritual crisis. He wrote, with chilling foresight, "The man who cannot obey himself will be commanded. That is the nature of living creatures." Ponder these words. Let them sink into the marrow of your being. To obey oneself is to live in alignment with your higher self, to be guided by an internal code of honor, a divine blueprint that dictates your actions. It is the essence of sovereignty. To be commanded, however, is to be a slave to external forces, to the shifting whims of a society that has lost its spiritual compass, to the chaotic frequencies of a world that no longer values the sacred masculine. This is the precise predicament of the modern man. So many men today are terrified of commitment, not from a place of inherent weakness or a flawed character, but because their spirit recognizes a rigged game. They are not cowards. They are canaries in the coal mine, their souls sensing the toxic air of a broken covenant. They have been systematically lied to, betrayed by the very structures that were meant to uphold virtue. Nietzsche, a prophet in his own right, predicted this very crisis over a century ago. He saw the slow decay of honor, the erosion of purpose, the coming of an age where the highest values would be inverted. He understood that a man's strength is forged in the crucible of purpose. His famous declaration, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how," is not just a clever aphorism, it is a universal law. The why is the mission, the divine purpose that fuels the masculine spirit. It is the North Star that guides him through the darkest nights and the most violent tempests. But what happens when that star is deliberately hidden from view? What happens when a man's why is systematically dismantled, mocked, and pathologized? He becomes unmoored, adrift on an ocean of nihilism, easily commanded, easily broken. Modern society has become a master of this spiritual theft. It has systematically stripped men of their purpose, their sacred why, while simultaneously demanding unconditional sacrifice, an endless how with no divine reward. It is a cruel and insidious bargain, a spiritual contract written in disappearing ink. Look around you with eyes unclouded by conditioning. Perceive the matrix of control. Our legal systems, particularly divorce laws, have become instruments that punish loyalty. A man can dedicate his life to building a family, providing and protecting with every fiber of his being, only to have it all stripped away in an instant, his devotion treated as a liability rather than an asset. The very act of standing by his vows can lead to his financial and emotional ruin. This is not justice, it is the systematic deconstruction of honor. Then, observe the digital realm. Dating apps, once promised as a means of connection, have devolved into a hyper-gamified marketplace of fleeting attractions. They reward fickleness, celebrate superficiality, and reduce the sacred dance of courtship to a series of transactional swipes. Loyalty and depth are penalized in an algorithm that favors novelty and endless options. The very technology that connects us also teaches us that everyone is replaceable, that commitment is an outdated concept in a world of infinite choice. And what of masculinity itself? The very essence of the divine masculine, the drive to protect, to provide, to build, to lead, to bring order to chaoses, now reflexively labeled as toxic. Ambition is reframed as oppression. Strength is seen as a threat. Stoicism is diagnosed as emotional unavailability. Men are expected to apologize for their very nature, for the fire in their souls that has built civilizations and defended the innocent for millennia. They are told to be soft when the world is hard, to be yielding when strength is required, to apologize for their very existence. This is the great inversion, the spiritual war waged not on a battlefield of flesh and blood, but on the battlefield of the mind and spirit. It is a war of frequencies, designed to lower the vibration of men until they are compliant, controllable, and disconnected from their true source of power. There is a way out of this labyrinth, a path back to sovereignty. But first, you must understand the depth of the illusion. By the end of this transmission, you will understand precisely why commitment feels like a trap designed by a hostile system. More importantly, you will receive the divine guidance needed to rebuild yourself into a man who chooses his commitments, not from fear or societal pressure, but from a place of unshakable internal strength. A man who is the master of his own destiny, a true sovereign of his own reality. This is the death of honor, the silent, creeping crisis that explains why modern men no longer see the inherent value in commitment. It's a crisis born from a world that has broken its promises. As Nietzsche once wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." This isn't just a statement, it's a fundamental law of the human spirit. The why is our purpose, our mission, the fire that gives meaning to our struggles. For generations, a man's why was clear: to build, to protect, to create a legacy, to honor his duty. These were not just social roles, they were sacred channels for his divine masculine energy. But what happens when a man's why is taken from him? What happens when the very things he once fought for, loyalty, duty, legacy, mocked as relics of a dead and oppressive age? He is left with an unbearable how, a life of sacrifice without meaning, of effort without reward. This is the spiritual void that so many men are facing today. Commitment, in this context, isn't just a choice. It becomes a gamble in a rigged casino where the house always wins. And modern men, in a quiet act of rebellion, are increasingly refusing to play. They see the stacked odds, the broken rules, and they are walking away from the table. Think back through the annals of history, through the stories of our ancestors. For centuries, marriage was a sacred contract, an energetic exchange honored by society. It was a partnership built on a foundation of clear, complementary roles. The man, channeling his masculine energy, provided security and resources. He was the shield, the builder, the anchor against the storms of the world. The woman, channeling her feminine energy, nurtured the home, raised the next generation, and provided the emotional heart of the union. This was not a power imbalance. It was a powerful synergy. Society, in its wisdom, honored this exchange because it understood that it was the very bedrock of a stable and prosperous civilization. The contract was clear, the rewards were tangible, and the system upheld the honor of both parties. But today, the rules of this sacred game have been rewritten, while the consequences for men remain more brutal than ever. The social contract has been torn to shreds, yet men are still expected to sign it with their blood, sweat, and tears. A man enters into a commitment, pouring his life force into his family and his future. He strives, he builds, he sacrifices. But the moment he stumbles, the moment he shows a flicker of human imperfection, the system that once supported him now turns on him with a terrifying vengeance. Divorce courts, no longer arbiters of fairness, often operate as instruments of financial plunder, stripping him of his wealth, his home, and even his children. His years of sacrifice are erased in the cold, sterile language of legal proceedings. Social media, a relentless tribunal of public opinion, shames him for expecting the very loyalty he so freely gave. His natural, instinctual drive to protect and provide is dissected, pathologized, and labeled toxic. His deepest biological impulses, the very engine of his masculinity, are deemed problematic, a relic of a patriarchal past that must be eradicated. Nietzsche saw this coming. He warned of this inversion of values, this spiritual sickness. He wrote, "When virtue has slept, it will arise again, refreshed." But what if virtue is not merely sleeping? What if it is being systematically erased from our collective consciousness? Herein lies the uncomfortable, undeniable truth. Men are avoiding commitment not because they are weak, but because they no longer trust the rewards. The entire system has been compromised. Love, the most sacred of emotions, has been commodified, reduced to a transaction in the marketplace of modern dating. Loyalty, once the ultimate virtue, has been replaced with the endless pursuit of options. And the modern world, in a grand act of psychological manipulation, tells men to be vulnerable, to open their hearts, while simultaneously handing a knife to those who would exploit that vulnerability, turning their backs as the blade is twisted. Look at the statistics, the cold, hard data that reveals the soul sickness of our time. Rising male suicide rates, plummeting marriage rates, a generation of men opting out of the system entirely. This is not a coincidence. This is a rebellion. It is a silent, leaderless protest against a world that has betrayed them. Nietzsche, the great seer of the human soul, saw through this grand illusion. He once quipped, "In heaven, all the interesting people are missing." In today's dating culture, a similar truth emerges. All the real men, the men of substance and honor, are disappearing. And why? Because the cost of commitment has skyrocketed to an unbearable height, while its perceived value has collapsed into dust. Women say they desire vulnerability, but often what they truly seek is unshakable strength. The moment a man's vulnerability looks like weakness, attraction withers. They claim to desire equality until the bill arrives, until the moment of crisis, when they instinctively look for a man to lead. Men are left in an impossible, no-win scenario. Sacrifice everything for a system that no longer honors sacrifice, or walk away and be branded a coward. But this is only the surface of the crisis. Because beneath the social and legal structures lies something deeper, something darker, something Nietzsche called the will to power. Men don't just fear betrayal, they fear irrelevance. And in a world that tells them they are disposable, can you truly blame them for refusing to sign their own death warrant? This is the silent war against masculinity, a war designed to engineer weak men, men who can be easily controlled. Nietzsche's warning was prophetic. The surest way to corrupt a youth, he wrote, is to instruct him to hold in higher esteem those who think alike than those who think differently. Modern society has perfected this corruption. From boyhood, men are conditioned to suppress their natural instincts. They are taught that their innate drive for competition, for adventure, for conquest is something to be ashamed of. The education system, increasingly feminized, rewards compliance and penalizes masculine energy. Boys who act like boys are medicated into submission. Their instincts are demonized. Assertiveness is reframed as aggression. Confidence is mislabeled as entitlement. The very tools of their power are taken from them before they even learn how to use them. This is a process of weaponized shame. A man's boundaries are called fragility, while a woman's are deemed sacred. The message is clear and relentless. You are not enough as you are. You must repent, shrink, and beg for approval. And so, men are responding in the only rational way they can, by walking away. But here's the secret the system doesn't want you to know. This weakness is not your natural state. It has been engineered. And the man who truly realizes this, the man who awakens to this profound truth, stops blaming women. He stops raging at the system. He turns inward and begins the sacred work of rebuilding himself. Nietzsche's solution wasn't despair, it was overcoming. It was the heroic call to become who you are. The man who heeds this call doesn't avoid commitment out of fear. He transcends the need for it. He chooses it, if he chooses it at all, on his own terms. And that is when everything changes. That is when he taps into a power that society cannot control. This power is built upon the 3 betrayals that have systematically killed male devotion. The first is the betrayal of purpose. For centuries, a man's worth was intrinsically tied to what he could build, protect, and provide. His ambition was not seen as oppressive. It was the engine of progress. His discipline was not toxic. It was the foundation of civilization. His desire to lead was not a relic of patriarchy. It was a sacred responsibility. Now, he is told that his very drive is the problem. Nietzsche saw this coming. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe, he observed. But modern men are not just struggling, they are surrendering. Without a mission, without a grand purpose that transcends personal pleasure, commitment feels like chains. The second betrayal is the betrayal of trust. Loyalty was once the currency of relationships, a bond stronger than steel. Now, it is a liability. Social media has turned attention into an open marketplace, and the average man is forced to watch in real time as his devotion is devalued against a backdrop of endless, glittering options. Why commit when she is one direct message away from what she perceives as a better option? Why sacrifice when the system rewards fickleness? Nietzsche warned of this dynamic. In revenge and in love, woman is more barbaric than man. He wasn't condemning women. He was exposing the raw truth of human nature. When the incentives for loyalty disappear, so does the virtue of it. The third and most devastating betrayal is the betrayal of consequences. A man who fails in his duty is shamed. A woman who abandons hers is often liberated and celebrated. Divorce courts overwhelmingly favor her. The media vilifies him. Even biology, the one force that should be impartial, has been hacked. Paternity tests are treated as taboo. Prenuptial agreements are deemed unromantic. The modern man steps into commitment like a player entering a rigged casino, knowing the house always wins. Nietzsche called this phenomenon slave morality, a system that pathologizes strength while rewarding victimhood. And it is everywhere. This is the invisible gauntlet, the female selection test that most men fail without even knowing they are being tested. Nietzsche wrote, "Woman is more artistic in her adornments than man." He understood that she understands camouflage far better. But this artistry isn't just about beauty, it's about evaluation. Every interaction with a woman is an unspoken test, a ruthless assessment of whether you are worthy of her ultimate commitment. Most men fail these tests before they even realize they're being tested. Here are the 3 tests that determine your fate. 1. The frame test. Who is leading whom? From the very first conversation, she is watching. Does he steer the interaction, or does he follow? Does he hold his own reality, or does his bend to hers? Modern men have been conditioned to seek permission, to defer, to ask, rather than lead. But female attraction does not respond to negotiation. It responds to certainty. Nietzsche saw this clearly. The man of knowledge must be able to not only to love his enemies, but also to hate his friends, he wrote. In other words, true strength is indifference to approval. The moment you seek her validation, you lose. Passing the test means you set the tone. You decide the pace. You are unfazed by her moods. Failing the test means you mirror her energy. You change your opinions to please her. You panic when she withdraws attention. 2. The investment test. Who is chasing whom? Biology doesn't care about fairness. Women are hardwired to seek men who do not need them because neediness signals low status. Yet modern men have been taught that persistence equals devotion. So they double text. They apologize for things they didn't do. They sacrifice their dignity for scraps of affection. Nietzsche warned, "The surest way to corrupt a man is to teach him to value those who take rather than those who give." Passing the test means you match her energy, never overinvest early, and walk away the moment she disrespects you. Failing the test means you give more than you receive. You make her the center of your world. You tolerate hot and cold behavior. 3. The pressure test. Will he stand or fold? Women need to know you will not break under stress, because if you cannot handle her challenges, how will you handle life's? So they push, they test boundaries, they provoke to see if you will stay calm or crumble into anger or desperation. Nietzsche's insight was brutal. When a woman displays heroic virtues, it is most often a sign that her nature has been misunderstood. Translation: her strength is often a last resort because no man around her has truly led. Passing the test means you hold frame under pressure. You do not react emotionally. You enforce your boundaries without anger. Failing the test means you lash out when challenged. You beg for another chance after rejection, or you let her disrespect slide just to keep the peace. Nietzsche didn't hate women, he understood them. He knew their nature is essentially unpeaceful, like the cat, however well she may have trained herself to seem peaceful. This isn't manipulation, it's instinct. Women don't choose to be this way any more than men choose to crave respect. It is biology. And the man who masters these tests doesn't just succeed with women, he transcends the game entirely. But this is just the battle. The war is even bigger, because now we finally reveal the ultimate escape. How to build a life so powerful that commitment becomes a choice, not a trap. This is the path of the sovereign man, the way to build a life where commitment is a choice, not a sacrifice. Nietzsche's greatest revelation was this: the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. This is the missing key. Modern men don't avoid commitment because they're afraid of women. They avoid it because they have lost ownership of themselves. They have been conditioned to seek validation rather than power, safety rather than greatness. But the man who reclaims his sovereignty, he doesn't fear commitment, he commands it. Here are the 3 pillars of unshakable masculinity. 1. A purpose beyond women. Nietzsche wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Most men make women their purpose, their source of meaning, their emotional foundation. This is why rejection destroys them. This is why they tolerate disrespect. They have nothing greater to live for. The sovereign man reverses this. His mission, his art, his business, his philosophy comes first. Women are welcome in his life, but they are not the point of it. How do you achieve this? By building something that outlasts you. By embracing solitude, for it is in the silent depths of your own company that true strength is forged. By following Nietzsche's command, by stop seeking happiness, seek power instead. 2. An unbreakable frame. Nietzsche said, "There is always some madness in love, but there is also always some reason in madness." Most men let women dictate reality. If she is warm, he is confident. If she is distant, he crumbles. The sovereign man's self-worth isn't rented, it is owned. How? By never negotiating your boundaries. Walk away the instant she disrespects you, and mean it. By training yourself to derive validation from action, not from attention. 3. Absolute self-ownership. No one can build you the bridge upon which you and only you must cross the river of life, Nietzsche declared. The modern man is addicted to excuses. Women only want money. Dating apps ruined romance. Society is against men. The sovereign man doesn't care. He adapts, he evolves, he refuses to be a victim. How? By taking 100% responsibility for your body, your finances, your mindset. By studying female nature like a strategist, not like a wounded idealist. By accepting that life is not fair and stopping expecting it to be. Here is the ultimate irony. The man who follows this path faces a delicious paradox. The less you need women, the more they will commit to you. Not because you have tricked them, not because you have played a game, but because you have become the kind of man who is worth committing to, a man of depth, discipline, and unshakable self-respect. What is Nietzsche's final word on the matter? Become who you are, not the man society wants, not the man women claim to want, but the man you were meant to be. Ruthless in your growth, unapologetic in your standards, and free in your soul. That is how you win, not by avoiding commitment, but by making it irrelevant. Now, go build your empire. The rest will follow.